Per usual, everyone else channels for educational purposes only, is not intended as financial advice. Setup Sunday. Once again, let's take a look at some charts. Cash looks good here. Dixie looks good here. Bonds look good here. Crypto not so much. Gold looks overbought. A lot of the momentum stuff looks a little bit late. So we'll take a look at all that. But on the crypto side, for BTC weekly flows were negative on the ETFs. At this point, you got a lot of selling, right? Not just in the ETFs. The ETFs are what they are. We know and can see what's going on with the inflows, and we didn't really go anywhere with 7 billion back to back. This is going to take more, right? If 7 billion doesn't do it, just means we need more passive flows, and that's all she wrote for BTC at the moment. On the ETH flows, also just kind of all over the place, just starting to get staking going. I guess we'll pull up the validator queue because there are some games being played with certain issuers claiming XYZ staking, XYZ fees. That's a different discussion for a different day, but we'll see how much that impacts flows once everything is in the free and clear on the validator queue. For BTC, since the cycle low, either this cycle is already over or it isn't a cycle anymore. I mean, those are really the two options, right? It doesn't really get much longer than this historically. We are there. This is what we've seen. We haven't seen anything longer than this. I would be fine with a longer cycle on less percentage gain, diminishing returns. Certainly diminishing returns here. There's been a lot of talk about 100K being a lot of people's magic number. And it's just, again, it's going to take more new buyers to absorb those sellers to continue. A lot of talk about all of these metrics that everybody's watching not firing a sell signal, as they have done 3 times hence, 4 times hence prior. You do have even, a few people have mentioned this already, but a little bit of a head and shoulders situation here on MVRV. Man, that'll be interesting to watch in 2026. If this plays out as a head and shoulders, that means price going back to the realized cap Z-score there. A lot of different charts to show old coins being moved and sold. Again, it's tough because is this a price thing or is this an ETF thing? We clearly have a lot of coin movement once the ETFs came online. If you just look at 6 to 12 month and down on percentage of the network that has moved, we're certainly closer to what we've seen historically on this metric than any other metric you're going to see. If you want to even take off the 6 to 12, give us a little bit more room, but this is just looking at the percentage of the network that has moved in X period of time within the past 3 to 6 months. Generally, when there's a giant spike, like 80% of the network is moving in the past 3 to 6 months, that typically is a massive sellers cashing out signal. Now in 2017, 2018, we had a lot of that, and we had more buyers coming in on the back of that. Much easier to move price up at that price level than it is 10x higher. So I'm taking this day by day, but I am open to the idea that the cycle's over. I'm open to the idea that cycles aren't a thing anymore. And one of the reasons why we haven't done so well on the BTC side is because of gold, and seeing a lot of people saying, oh man, gold, BTC leads gold doesn't lag, or it's some other trade, it's some other macro trade, whatever. Look, it's all the same thing, okay? It's a lead lag relationship. Call it what you want. Historically, we have not moved up on the BTC side the same time gold has. Just hasn't happened. You've got people all over the world, literally, there's videos on Twitter that are real, not Sora, of people lining up at the bullion shop down the street to buy gold. If that's not a top signal, I don't know what is. Not that this is a short, but would you be selling this to be buying other things is the question, right? That's the hero trade. Everybody and their mother is also talking about this. That, oh, let's sell gold here, buy some BTC. I've done it. There's nothing wrong with it. I just don't think we can all be a hero, If you look at the RSI here on gold, it is in bear div territory. It is in insanity zone as far as the number. You certainly want RSI to stay overbought. You can get a continuous bear div on this. This can certainly go higher. Nothing says it can't. It's just probability wise, the speed at which this has gone up, no matter what this is, it doesn't matter. Any chart that looks like this, a lot of the momentum charts look like this right now, where you're getting a bear div plus X percentage from the breakout. You've also got this TKC clamp just starting on gold. So the cloud, distance from key June, bear div, you don't have a trailing stop loss that you can even use up here. But there are a lot of people looking at this saying, all right, maybe we'll take some profits, buy something else. A lot of people also saying, you know what, nothing stops this train. Screw BTC, nothing stops this train. I certainly don't like fresh positions up here. Same with silver. Silver's done really well. Again, a subtle bear div here. Higher high, lower momentum. It's also a case of people talking past each other. You've got the near-term traders talking about taking profits, rotating into something else. You've got the long-term people saying everything's being re-rated, commodities are going higher, here comes the big print, blah, 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 right? All these people are probably correct at the end of the day. You probably do get a pullback here, and then you probably do go higher eventually on both gold and silver. But this is not something, me personally, that I'm entering here with a chart that looks like that. Here's the gold BTC chart, and this is troubling because if BTC is dropping here, that's losing against gold. Previously in bear markets, COVID, we've always had, similar to the USD chart, a pattern to think about on the bottom side and on the top side. So to be buying here, this is probably going to end up slaughtering a bunch of the heroes that are buying BTC with their gold. There's essentially zero TA justification to buy BTC here on the long side or to sell gold and buy BTC. It's just not there. Looking at the trend here, you are falling out of the cloud. So if we heroes get lucky and this bounces and then makes a higher high to 40 on the ratio, great. But that is not what the TA is saying. And if you look at October, we are negative on the month so far. I will defend any trade I took for October leading into this based on seasonality, based on chart pattern. We did get a breakout. We just got sellers coming in on the back of that real hard to pull us lower. And it certainly gets harder for most people psychologically. If there's anything that keeps the cycle intact, it's people who've been here since 2016 or prior saying, all right, I know what happens in 2026. I'm going to start selling. As this starts to get droopy, even in Q4, if this continues, it's going to be even harder to pull that up. I think we're kind of living through that a little bit now as people, for whatever reason, have sort of said, you know what, enough's enough. Now, gold, of course, stealing a lot of that thunder. BTC barely positive, I think, on the year at this point. And again, there's zero justification to be long here on the BTC side for TA. None. What do you let me know in the comments what you got. But the cloud, we are below it. We're going to flip bearish here on the cloud within the next couple days. If we get lucky and bounce, great. But this is not where you want to be buying BTC short term as a trade. And again, people are talking past each other. DCA for the next 4 years, love it. Absolutely love it. I love DCAs down to zero. But if you're telling me you're longing this here based on a trade with leverage, I think you're going to be in for a rude awakening until this pulls way up. 115 is the level. That's what we need. 115, 116. Now we could say maybe this is, we'll go to here. Maybe this is some sort of wedge thing. Fine. Where do you buy that? Where would I want to buy that? I don't know. I would want to use some moving averages or the cloud or something to say, hey, now's a better time than at the bottom. Now you could always say at any point, I'm going to buy here, stop at new lows. Fine. That's fine. That's respectable. I can take that. But to have delusions of grandeur and say, oh, here comes the big print. It's coming, boys. QT's over. QE's on the way. Don't think we're quite there yet. So 115, certainly the level. And if anything, you just watch the hourly cloud. We've not gotten above the hourly and stayed there. Every time we try to creep up, mainly that Chinese account on Hyperliquid comes back in and sends 50 million 10x short BTC. So until that stops or they get smacked up and price moves higher against them, it feels like we're just we're in the down cycle at the moment. And MSTR, again, there's nothing to say here for the same reason the rationale. System says stay out, has said stay out since August. Really nothing to do here on the leverage long side. So if anything, the setup for me this week is just, unless we're above 115, near-term trades do not make sense. If you're willing to hold this for a year plus, likely 1,000 days, like if this is the top, historically it's taken 1,000 days, I think this is correct, 1,000 days to make a new high. It's taken a year to bottom and then 1,000 days to make a new high. So nothing wrong with that in the long term, but you got to be aware, if there's ever a place to buy, it's in a bear market. It's just, I would use some sense there and DCA appropriately until we're back above levels that suggest positive momentum. Metaplanet's a great example, right? Not saying this is what's going to happen with BTC, but people love to start to buy on the way down and it's a dip that keeps dipping. It's a knife that goes through your hand, right? You know, you can try to catch the knife all you want, but here we are. Now with an MNAV slightly below 1, I think, here, and a bull div-ish on RSI, you're getting lower lows in price, higher low in RSI, starting to look interesting. There's still a mega channel here on low time frames you can watch, just basic moving averages you can watch. Really very little TA justification on the daily for this to do anything here, other than a div. Historically, Metaplanet specifically has taken like 3 to 4 months to bottom. And if and when we get it, probably a great edge-to-edge trade later on in the year if BTC can start to pull up from, say, 550 to 1,000. You know, there are trades to be taken to watch for. There's just, what do you do here? Nothing. Why? Right? ETH, same deal. Actually, not as bearish as BTC, believe it or not. It is in the cloud. Being below the cloud, below 3,400 would be bearish. I think there's also another account on Hyperliquid that's shorting BTC and longing ETH. I could be wrong. Could be mixing up my Chinese accounts here, but this is not a slam dunk long either, just to be clear. You know, I like this, like I always do, above, in this case, 4,200 or something. Ultimately, it's 46.48, a breakout trade that it has failed to get above. But a similar fractal to what happened here, just morphed up here. Certainly possible. That's always what you want to look for. You want to look for strength, higher highs, bullish TK recross, price above cloud. We're not there yet. And almost every other alt just looks way, way worse than that. Here's ETH against gold. I don't see too many people talking about this one, but very interesting that maybe ETH gets an inverted head and shoulders against gold. I don't know how that leaves BTC, but this chart is at least a little more optimistic that we could see some outperformance on ETH relative to gold, where the BTC version, this, if I can find it again, this thing does not look long for this world. Now, I don't know why ETH would go up and BTC would go in the opposite direction, so I don't think that anything's going to play out in a big way for ETH, but what we want here is this to negate. We want the higher high, obviously. So just an interesting ETH gold observation versus BTC gold. This at least has hope, is what I'm trying to say. You know, the BTC chart has a lot of room to make up against gold, which we could see it. We've seen it before, right? It's just, what is your justification today for the hero trade? Macro handwave stuff? like, yeah, I'm with you. Look, I'm in the trade with you. I believe it as well. I'm not saying it's correct, but I believe it. I believe it. And Sol, of all the alts, Sol looks better than most. I mean, most just look irrecoverable at this point of the cycle. It would take most alts like a 50% move just to get back into the cloud. Like, it's just not good out there across the board. So at least the system I use, the TA I use, is not going to pick up on anything until it's been probably another couple months for that stuff to go sideways and pull up. Sol above 200 in November, we'll take it. But there's nothing here. There's absolutely nothing here. And like I said in the open, DXY, this is the chart. Again, I don't care what it is. You take this chart and you take gold, right? Which one are you long here? Which one are you trimming here? Which one are you short here? Are you short this chart? I don't think so. I think you're short this chart 0 times out of 10. This chart looks very, very good. And we all hope that this doesn't play out as you'd think, which is a bearish to bullish reversal. If this starts to creep up towards the end of the year, I would have to assume it is sayonara for crypto. It is sayonara for the cycle. If this starts to break out, if this can just hold the level down here into the end of the year, give us some time for BTC to move, great. But we do not want to see this curling up. I don't know why it would. I have zero macro fundamental reasoning why it would, but the technicals certainly want it to. Now, if anything, it could be positioning that helps push this into the 100s. But the higher this goes, the higher the likelihood in my mind any cycle odds that we've had are Dunsky for now. We still got room. You know, BTC has plenty of room, right? We're still in the midpoint of the power law. We're still midpoint of the pitchfork. We got lots of room, but ultimately if the rest of the world around us doesn't want it to happen, it won't happen. And this is the bond complex. Tell me, what do you do here? Buy, sell, or hold. We can argue about fundamentals all we want. We can say the big print is coming. These are all going to be worthless. Fine. But again, I'm not going to disagree. That's probably correct. But we're looking at trades. All these charts look excellent. TLT less so, but This is what you want alts to look like. This is what you want BTC to look like. All of these look like they're just going to slowly continue to creep higher. So from a trading perspective, that the easier trade is the dollar, it's bonds. It just is. Again, we can talk about the debasement trade till we're blue in the face. I'm with you. I get it. But I don't think there's immediate TA justification for that here. At least the SPY and the Qs all still look plenty bullish. You know, this just could be a consolidation. You certainly hope it's not a head and shoulders up here. You don't have a bearish DK cross. You don't have price in the cloud. So this looks fine. This could keep going in perpetuity. No big deal there. Not bearish. But if this starts to curl down as well into the end of the year, again, not what we want for crypto. It's going to be very hard for crypto to do well if the SPY is curling down, if the Qs are curling down, and they look fine here. But we, again, are threatening sort of a head and shoulders breakdown. We were threatening it here, and we recovered. So we just need a little higher high, not anytime soon. But that negates any bearish concerns here by me. But if this starts to lose lows, if this gets into the 580s, not a good look. Not a good look. IWM kind of on its own journey as well. Looks fine. Looks a lot like ETH. You, of course, want this to continue if you're bullish ETH. And on a relative basis, IWM over the Qs, IWM over anything, IWM versus the world, IWM certainly looks like it's time to shine on a relative basis. Some other sectors here. This is the Mag 7, Mags. Not really anything here. Bullish or bearish, you know, just kind of treading water. It was a lot more bearish to me back here, potentially. Again, with that head and shoulders. I don't necessarily really see anything here. But again, what you don't want is this. You don't want a bearish DK cross price in cloud. No, this is not what we want. We're not even close to it, to be clear, but that's not what you want towards the end of the year. SMH also looks fine. It's going to be hard for the indices to go down if SMH looks like this. You also probably have a lower time frame. Inverted head and shoulders there, so that looks fine. XLF is, again, this is the financials. This is not what you want the other indices to look like. This isn't enough to pull down the SPY. But just a little reminder here, you know, if everything starts to look like this, it's very likely crypto is heading lower, ETH heading lower, everything. Doesn't matter. We just go more risk off. Even gold, you know, gold could potentially pull back with everything and then recover and go higher after that. Lastly, I just thought I'd check in on Bakkt again. Some sort of Wyckoff accumulation-ish, I'd imagine here at this point. I would love to see this actually just consolidate as long as possible. 5 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever. Just bide its time as long as it's holding above 25. But it still looks good. Still looks good for, I mean, it's the best it's looked ever, right? It literally has not ever looked this good in its existence. I am very minimally long Bakkt. But again, if you're comparing the gold chart to something that looks like this, or Figs, or Rivian, or Roku, you certainly want momentum to pull it out of this, but to be an Oklo or Rigetti here doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't make sense to me. So maybe you trim, let your runners run, and focus on other things. That's all I have for this one. Give me a like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.